talk about Trump's views on NAFTA.
Well, let's look at immigration. How would you?
I mean, what? Oh,
immigration in terms of immigrants coming to the United States and immigrant workers and.
I mean, okay. Do you want to talk about how that affects the U.S.?
Yeah, how it affects the United States and et cetera. You know, however you want to talk about it, because you've laid out all the basic ideas in reference to it.
So immigration.
So you want to say,
cool.
Well, do you think you can deal with it from that? What impact does immigration have on NAFTA? You see, because
I can do that.
Or if you don't want to talk about immigration on NAFTA, whatever.
I can do immigration. Okay.
Now you ain't gonna be able to talk about it for no 10 minutes.
I can talk about it for 10 minutes. I can talk about anything for 10 minutes if you let me. It's gonna get talked about for 10 minutes.
Okay,
Something's gonna get talked about. Got it. Something's gonna get talked about for 10 minutes.
Okay, so we've got 10 minutes for this last segment.
Is it exactly 10 or is it like 9:50?
9:55.
All right, that minus 5 seconds helps.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll introduce it and make some statements in reference to it to try to get us back.
You've heard me talk about anything for 10 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
I've done this. I done talk about stuff I don't even know about for 10 minutes.
Ready when you are.
Okay.
Let's get this over with. We're ready. Yeah. Let's get it.
Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. The topic is the North American Free Trade Agreement, and the guest is Alana McLaughlin, and she's given us some information in reference to NAFTA and some of the consequences, benefits, as well as the impact that it has had on the United States, Mexico, and Canada. So, Alana, over the last 10 minutes, let's look at this economic program in a real sense, and look at some of the winners and some of the losers and some of the things that you think are important and why you think that the agreement should continue between the three component states.
Now, for our viewers just tuning in, we explained that NAFTA was basically an agreement, a trade agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico that basically tries to boost economic integration between the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, and tries to boost the economies of these three countries. Now, under the Clinton administration, and even when Clinton was signing off on this, he basically told the people that, oh, this is going to create jobs, good-paying jobs for these hardworking Americans. It's going to bring jobs to the U.S., which it did in part. But over the last 24 years that we've been under NAFTA, over 500,000 jobs have been moved from the U.S. to Mexico and Canada for reasons like you can give them lower pay in Mexico and other things. You make more money when you give your workers lower pay, which is a big reason why a lot of these jobs are moving to Mexico, which is another big reason why President Trump wants to renegotiate and terminate NAFTA. He's saying that this is taking away jobs from our hardworking people. So we're trying to bring these jobs back and we're trying to get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. And also, it needs to be revamped to accommodate internet commerce, which is something that, you know, the American people weren't worried about in 1994. And it just needs to be touched up a bit to accompany all these new obstacles that have arisen in the last 25 years.
To really update it in a real sense, and it would be more advantageous to update it rather than to get rid of it.
Yes.
Is that the idea?
Yes, in my opinion, but there are lots of Americans who have lost their jobs under NAFTA and are pretty anti-NAFTA, and labor unions can be sometimes anti-NAFTA because of the fact that caring about your workers isn't really something that was really cared about, like as a topic and as an idea under NAFTA.
Into the agreement.
It wasn't really. And so, for instance, under NAFTA, lots of large U.S. manufacturers can make women take pregnancy tests before they can even work in a factory in Mexico, even despite being pregnant or anything, which is unlawful here in the U.S. You know, you can't go to Campbell or Tyson and they make you take a pregnancy test before you apply. That just wouldn't fly here. So lots of labor unions are anti-NAFTA. And lots of the government is anti-NAFTA. But I will admit that this is something that's very important in today's society, and I just want our viewers to take what I'm saying and then make their own opinions about it, because, you know, I can't sit up and preach that, oh, we need it, or oh, we don't need it. I just can give out the facts and let people, you know, do their own thing with it. Now, President Trump and his followers are more anti-NAFTA than some Americans, and people who have lost their jobs will tend to be more anti-NAFTA, but more executives and less blue-collar type workers will be more pro-NAFTA because they're making more money. So these are just the basic facts of it. And another big thing is lots of Mexicans are anti-NAFTA because of the fact that lots of jobs in Mexico disappeared because lots of American jobs were coming over. Lots of U.S. manufacturers relocated to Mexico. So lots and lots, millions of Mexicans immigrated from Mexico to the U.S. in search of better jobs. And then this takes us to, okay, now these people are coming over to get better jobs, but it takes so long to get your citizenship papers, and it takes so long to become a U.S. citizen, and then you get deported, and then we all come back to the main idea of immigration. All roads lead to immigration. Whether it be NAFTA, whether it be anything in today's politics, will somehow lead to immigration. And that's President Trump's big standpoint. I believe that another big reason why he wants to get rid of NAFTA is to cut off trade with Mexico and then build this wall. You know, we don't need these people coming over. We don't need to be trading with them.
So you believe that if NAFTA is eliminated, that it would have a tremendous impact on Mexico, much more than on the United States of America? Is that, and that there might be some kind of economic incentive of eliminating NAFTA? Is that what you're saying?
I believe that everyone would lose something if NAFTA was to be eliminated. For instance, those large United States manufacturers who left the U.S. and went to Mexico would be losing money just like that. And the foreign investment that soared in Mexico until the recent recession would just plop back down to just stage one. And the stronghold that the U.S. has in Mexico and like the business industry would fail. And then the auto industry in Canada, which is booming under NAFTA, would just go back down. And all these winners that were winners under NAFTA would lose. And the losers would still be losing. Until we replace those 500,000 American jobs that were lost under NAFTA, cutting off NAFTA isn't going to do anything. We need to be bringing jobs back. But you know, that's just a personal opinion.
Yeah, but in a real sense, Lana, and do you think that many people of your class, age, group are familiar with what goes on in NAFTA? And I know that this is one of the reasons that we wanted to talk about it, and you said that you wanted to talk about it. But is this a topic that is of some interest among people of your age?
It should be, because once people start working in these factory jobs, they're going to have to know about NAFTA, because if your job just ups and relocates to Mexico, you're going to be sitting confused and wondering why they're doing that. And learning about NAFTA and learning about the pros and cons of NAFTA helps bring an idea of what's going on in the world. And it helps bring an idea of why so many Americans are losing these jobs and why so many Mexicans are coming over and why Canada's booming. It helps explain lots and lots of things. But I do believe that NAFTA does have a lot of pros and cons. And I'm very neutral on the situation. I do believe that 500,000 Americans, you know, shouldn't have lost those jobs. But I do believe that employing Mexicans and Mexican citizens over there is helping them, and it's helping their economy as well as our economy. So it's, you know, for people to take it how they want to. And
so in a real sense, there's an economic benefit for all three of the states.
The countries, yeah.
There's an economic benefit for all three, but some gain more than others. And so when we talk about renegotiating the agreement, the idea, it appears that the United States might be gaining much more than the other two countries, especially United States, Canada, and Mexico might be coming up short. And so these are the individuals that are coming from Mexico
But also, lots of American businesses have been hurt by imports from Canada and Mexico, so it honestly depends on who you talk to. But if you learn the facts straight up and then take them how you want to, that's how you can really decide who's a winner and a loser. This is all opinion-based, honestly.
Well, now, what are some of the states in the United States that is more concerned with NAFTA than any of the others?
The 3 states that lost the most jobs under NAFTA would be Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Texas. And you see in the last election that once President Trump started addressing NAFTA and addressing these lost jobs, that these 3 states voted for him. And so those are just 3 big states that have just lost like thousands and thousands of jobs under NAFTA, and there are states that are pretty anti-NAFTA.
Very good. And of course, Alana, let me thank you for bringing by that information today. I must admit this disclaimer that I had in reference to whether or not we ought to talk about NAFTA, and as a matter of fact, whether or not there might be some interest in NAFTA. And I think that I can say that there has to be some interest not only among people of your age group, but among people of my age group. I think that I've learned quite a bit about the whole organization and the way that it works from the little conversation that we've had before. I think I've been aware of the agreement itself, but I never thought in terms of some of the things that you're saying that people of your age might wish to know about it. And so let me thank you, and let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and good morning.